On this episode of the It's Real podcast, we're talking about a housing market that's forcing changes for buyers, sellers, and even real estate agents. Why are agents quitting the business? Why are more young adults moving back in with their parents? And is Airbnb really becoming a risky investment? And what happens when millennials inherit trillions, but not until they're in their 50s and 60s? Plus, we'll discuss a new report showing which states have the highest mortgage closing costs and what that means for buyers today. The It's Real podcast starts now.
You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Callender and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Callender.
I'm Andrew Yagi, episode 109, and a jam-packed episode at that, Kayla. So
I love it.
So let's get started because I know
Do
you
it.
have places to be, clients to work with. I saw your email the other day. Your what do you call it?
Value bomb.
Yeah, your value bomb. Thanks for including me on it. And you guys are serving a lot of families this year.
Yeah, I think through June we will have helped about 82 families, which is great. I mean, when I think about it, some people don't do that over a couple years or 3 years. And so our team is very grateful that people are trusting us to take care of them. And with anything, like as you grow, there's the fear that you're going to sacrifice quality, or, I fear sometimes, oh gosh, like handing off to someone else, will they do the same quality of work? And that's where you just really have to build and make sure you're all on the same page, and just let people know, like, the reason that you have a team is so that you can have more people to help you through, right? I mean, I still think I don't want to say crazy, everyone has their own way to run their business, Andy, but I still wonder, how do loan officers that don't have support do this business? I mean, what if you're in meetings for hours and someone needs a letter, or what if you're, heaven forbid, on a vacation with your family? You know what I mean? So I'm very blessed to be able to have a staff that, wraps their arms around our clients and is available and helps us grow. So it's exciting. So
Amen. I feel the same too. I was just talking to someone the other day, and we went from, me basically being a solo agent with, and some admin staff and an occasional agent to now we have 6 licensed agents in our office. We just added another admin staff member, which is why you were commenting before, boy, are you in a different office? And so we actually have been doing some shuffling a little bit around offices and kind of rehousing people here as we continue to grow too, which has been a lot of fun.
yeah.
But it brings up a great article that I came across, Kayla, in real estate in the Wall Street Journal just the other day. I know you had maybe just a minute to look at it, but talking about real estate agents are quitting the slow housing market. Talks about Europe, a struggling market, even real estate professionals who made it this far are reaching a breaking point. And you talk about not knowing how even mortgage lenders do it. This goes hand in hand with lenders. So this kind of shows the number of homes that have been for sale. So you can see, there was a lot of inventory, of course, 07, 08, we saw a crash. Okay, the market rebounded, dropped off, a little bit more, and just the market's been a little bit more stale. This also shows the National Association of Realtor membership, which kind of hit its peak recently in 2022, just shy of 1.6 million members, and tapering off as well. A lot of people, Kayla, they jumped into real estate when the market was really hot.
Yeah.
And in a lot of markets, a lot of those agents, they're not able to sustain themselves. Lenders, agents, especially independent contractors, if you're not selling, you are not making money. And all these frustrations for me, I think for you as well with lenders, is there are not high barriers to entry. It doesn't take a long time to get a real estate license. I know it's not hard to get your NMLS number.
No.
To jump on board with a bank. And, we've talked about it in past seasons where it creates a high level of incompetency and actually drives up costs, because of missed opportunities for people.
Yeah, I would agree. I think people got into it, when it was good and it was hot and great. And, I think too about the more people you help, the more experience you get. you help. I mean, not to say that you can't start in this business. Everyone starts from somewhere. You and I started from
For sure.
from just learning, right? But I will say that you really notice when the wheels fall off, because people don't have that experience and they're relying, okay, maybe the lender knows or something's missed, and the experience is just not as good either. And that affects so many people. But yesterday, Andy, I lost a client because the individual wanted to use somebody new because they were new. They're like, well, I think that they could, use a business and I want to support them. And that's awesome. I think that that's great. But in the back of my head, the person I looked them up has done one deal. And I'm like, okay, like hopefully they have assistance or help or somebody. But I really think that when the barriers to entry are low and there's not a lot of business, there's also that mindset of scarcity. And what I noticed on the lender side is a lot of realtors trying to push things through that maybe shouldn't be. Now, always advocate for the client, always push, but sometimes you can kind of feel that. You can kind of feel like maybe we need to slow this down first because we don't want to put a client in a bad situation. I feel that too.
But they need the sale. The agent needs the sale. So you can smell the commission breath.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that in the last couple of years. And then the ones that are like, no, you need to go get pre-approved. We need to slow down. I think that's an indication that you're working with a professional, because you can be new in this business and still slow things down without pushing or putting pressure on anybody, because it's a
Mhm.
big purchase and there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
I even hear it right now in the market, talking to other agents in the area, like, man, this is, the market's been really slow. Man, I really need a sale. Um, wow, I haven't seen it this slow for a while. And of course, there are some that are, going gangbusters. And, those individuals that are finding success, that are building teams, they're finding success because, again, they're putting the client first. They're doing things for the right reason.
yeah,
They are providing value. They're not doing just the basics. And, they know it's okay to say no. Kayla, I've got some past clients of mine. I sold them a house. House was in tough shape. They made some real meaningful improvements to it, but there's still a lot of deferred maintenance and
yeah.
work that it needs. They've gone back, they've refinanced. I don't know how they got an appraisal for what they did, because the house is not worth that in the market today. And now, some life circumstances have made it where they need to sell it and they're upside down in the house.
Mm,
At which point it's like, hey, I'm here to guide you and give you, some thoughtful expertise, but I'm not going to come and list this house for what your payoff is, plus commissions and fees, because we're not going to sell it. It's going to lead to more frustration. So it's probably time that we have an honest discussion with the lender and get out in front of this before we get in a real bad situation.
yeah. And those conversations should be completely valued and appreciated. I know if I was that client, I would so appreciate the honesty. And that's what the good agents, the good lenders do. But in any industry, there's always the bad seeds, the ones that push. So I love that you do that, Andy.
Yeah, you as well, Kayla. Two peas in a pod here on the It's Real podcast. Kayla, we often talk about home ownership, and we talk about, on average, an average individual today doesn't get into their first home until they're 34 years old.
Hmm.
I came across an article the other day where it talks about more than half of young adults have moved back home
Yep.
after leaving. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah. And oh man,
It's
it
58%. So it says almost 60% of young adults have moved home at some point, but
mm-hmm.
they don't see it as a failure to launch, which I think is a good thing. It's all about mindset. And it
Yeah.
talks about, on top of this, about 15% of young adults have moved back in multiple times. Is this something that you've seen quite a bit, as you're working with people and even trying to qualify people and say, hey, I'd really love to work with you, but maybe move back home for a little bit, improve your financial situation?
A lot, actually. I was just thinking last night, I was working on a file and I looked and I'm like, oh yeah, this person isn't renting because they moved back home to live with their parents. And we see it a lot. We see that, people are trying to save money, but it's difficult for people if they own a house. It's a really hard pill to swallow to say, well, I'm going to move home for a few months, and some have kids and pets. It's really difficult, right? But I do see it happen. I see people say, I'm just gonna, I can't afford this. I want to save up. And a lot more than I used to. Probably a couple years ago, it was very rare, but yeah, I'm seeing it more than I thought I would at this point.
Yeah, right on. I was just thinking, I've got a closing this week actually where it's a scenario, and this individual actually was a homeowner prior, so
Mhm.
not that they couldn't have, but just with life circumstances, it just kind of made sense, which actually, really put them in a great financial position, to come back out and now pursue something, very strongly in, what's been a challenging market.
Yeah. And you got to do what you got to do. And I mean, times are tough, and sometimes you got to do it. It's not great. I mean, maybe it is great. Maybe people love living back home with like their parents, home cooked meals. Who knows? Laundry.
Yeah, there could be some positives. I don't think it would be for me on an ongoing basis, but a little short term. But at this stage, with three kids and everything else,
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
No, I agree.
Kayla, and kind of along those same lines, we talk about the benefit of home ownership as it pertains to growing wealth, and
Mm-hmm. Me too.
two big reasons why most people, or the two biggest reasons why the average consumer is able to become a millionaire is number one, retirement accounts, especially if there's a match at work, and number two, home ownership. So we talked about this, I think, probably about 6 months ago, where it talked about Realtor.com finding that buying a first home by age 30 can compound it at 22.5%
Mm-hmm.
worth by age 50, then
Mm-hmm.
waiting just 10 years to buy. And that kind of piggybacks off of this other article, Kayla, where millennials are set to inherit
Mm-hmm.
trillions of dollars. We talk about one of the
Yeah.
big transfers of wealth, happening, right now, and going to continue to happen. But for a lot, it's going to come too late. This article, Kayla, talks about the fact that uh, about 59% of parents say that they plan to leave their kids some type of inheritance or help with down payment assistance, help with the home investments, etc. But they're just saying that right now, with the market being stagnant, everything's so high cost. Early family transfers maybe are not always helping or not helping. They're not happening quite as quickly. And that with individuals like we even talk about the baby boomer generation staying in their houses longer, which is making it more difficult for younger individuals to get into homes.
Mhm.
Uh, it makes life a little bit challenging.
It does. And, I think I've talked about this before, but I am surprised how much now this is a good thing. I mean, I think if you can get a gift from a family member, I would say lately, now I don't have stats, I don't keep track of this, but I would say 1 out of 5 people, they're getting a gift from a relative, a parent, an in-law. I see it a lot more than I used to as well. That's another thing that I'm seeing. Also, I'm seeing a lot of non-occupant co-borrowers, meaning a co-borrower that's not occupying the residence. So it's very clear that there's a generation that has some wealth and they're trying to help their children. And in some cases, Andy, it's been the catalyst to moving clients forward where they wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. So it's a great thing that's happening, but it kind of makes me chuckle when I hear, oh, mom and dad are giving me 200,000. I'm like, whoa, okay, all right. That changes things, people. That really changes things versus our first call when you said you've got, 8 grand to put down. So it can really be the difference between a client getting the home that they want or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, a lot of individuals very blessed, to have that and a great opportunity to, to be able to take advantage of. But again, the article pointing as well that, sometimes it's just not happening quick enough to change the financial
Yeah.
landscape for all people.
Yep. And I can see that too. Oh, interesting.
Kayla, let's talk closing costs. You run into this a little bit more since you're kind of, I guess you're not an international lender, but you can lend in 50 states.
Yeah, I can. And, even being on the border of North Dakota and Minnesota, I mean, in Minnesota, oftentimes we see the closing costs are going to be a little bit more because of transfer tax. And the thing is that a lot of people just go online and they're like, well, what are closing costs, right? But it depends where you're living. And Andy, you can agree with this too, but in North Dakota, there's Fargo specifically, there are special assessments. And one thing, for example, if you are building a new home in Fargo, North Dakota, a lot of times the builder will
think you've seen it on.
you to cover the closing cost, or not the closing costs, the taxes and specials from the beginning of the year. I just had one, Andy, that the client is responsible for all of 2025 and all of 2026 taxes and specials. Do you want to guess how much in taxes and specials they need to bring to closing?
Too much.
$25,000. And you know, when we're talking to a client, estimated closing costs $9,000, let's say. Well, when you're signing with a builder and it's a year contract, there are so many things that impact that. So one of the things that this article just talks about is the difference in state. And I financed a property. It's really hard to kind of see this, but I financed a property in Delaware last year, and I don't even know which 0.6, but regardless, New York is wild, their closing costs. But
Huge.
yeah, but what I did is I noticed that the lender that they were shopping, I'm like, gosh, their closing costs are way high. And in my head, I'm like, wow, like that lender is just like gouging them. Well, then I got my own title estimate, and sure enough, there was a huge transfer tax. And that's what people need to realize, is that depending not just on the state, like you can see each one has a different percentage, but it depends on the county. It depends on if you're doing new construction. It depends on, are you VA, FHA? There's so many things that impact it. So if you are shopping nationally, so we see that often in Fargo, people will go online and get a national lender to quote them. In the case of this client that I helped the other day, Rocket Mortgage or an online lender would have been $25,000 short in their closing costs. So just something to think about. I share that because if you are shopping, if you're a consumer listening to this and you are in North Dakota and you got a lender in, Kentucky, make sure that you talk to someone local, because it can be a game changer of closing costs. And that's a lot of money out of pocket.
Right on. Very interesting. That's something I haven't thought about. I do see the different, working Minnesota, North Dakota, fairly similar, but, certainly some differences based on how the states do things. But yeah, would have never thought. And obviously you didn't either think about a transfer tax.
No, I think it was, Andy, I think it was like $20,000, 26, somewhere in there. And I was like, what? And called the title company. I said, is this legit? Your calculator showing this? And sure enough. So just something to think about. And in some states and counties, maybe it's customary that the seller pays certain items of the transfer tax or the abstract. So the point of this message is make sure you're talking to someone local, because it can be thousands of dollars of difference that you bring on closing day.
Right on. Well, Kayla, I know we're up against the clock today, so that's going to put a wrap on episode 109. Have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye.